Fire Quarterly Joint Policing Committee update.
Maybe explain to you what exactly a joint policing committee actually does. So the whole purpose of a joint policing committee is to serve as a forum for basically consultation, discussion and recommendations on matters affecting very specifically policing in the area. Some projects I've taken part in so far have been increasing or working with additional policing and foot patrols on Eyre Street and Newbridge very specifically. A call obviously for increased Garda numbers and increase policing when it comes to drug related crimes. As well as that, in my other role on the Regional Drugs Task Force, I've been involved in campaigns like the No Alcohol Substances on Board, which was a campaign that we done last year and the year prior to that in relation to ensuring that young people who are going out for their junior cert or leaving, well, not necessarily leaving cert, but junior cert results, specifically underage young people, weren't able to bring alcohol with them on basically on board any kind of public transport or usable transport that may have been hired out for a private session. Another one that I was involved in was the drug-related intimidation and violence engagement campaign, which gives people the opportunity, I suppose, to engage with Gardaí without fear of arrest if they're being intimidated in relation to drug use, drug deaths, or anything like that. So those were extremely important campaigns. So the meeting gone, it was on Monday, just gone. It was our county-wide JPC, so there were a number of very specific figures that mirrored or were similar across the county. We had on the agenda a policing report from Chief Superintendent John Scanlon. We had an overview of the sale of alcohol bill, community CCTV update, and an update on the message alert system. So I suppose one of the things I have is that when we were presented with the policing report, there were a number of interesting trends highlighted, including there was an increase in crimes against the person, including assault or assault causing harm. Those two were pretty self-explanatory. You've got assault and assault causing harm, as well as drunkenness offences and intoxicated driving of a vehicle. Now, intoxicated driving of a vehicle isn't just alcohol anymore. It also includes, it includes drug or drink driving. I suppose we could see that the increase, because what the figures that are compared between Q4 of 2021 and Q4 of 2022. So that's Christmas and back this year and last year. And all of which the guards were indicating that might be as a result of an increase in the nighttime economy. So the pubs are back, nightclubs are back, arguments, rows, whatnot are liable to take place when drink is involved. So I can somewhat agree, and I can somewhat see the issues they would say are there in relation to an increase in the nighttime economy resulting in an increase in these issues. Now, I have asked for a breakdown of not just the times these offences took place, because they're saying it's nighttime economy related, but we can't be sure it's nighttime economy related until I can see the times and the issues in and around where these things took place. So I think that is massively important to find out the time, the days, all of this kind of stuff, because we know certain nightclubs, late bars, whatnot are open on certain days of the week. So if there's an increase on those days at those nights, perhaps a level of engagement can take place with them. But as well as that, I've also asked for the stats pre-COVID, because throughout the whole meeting they kept reiterating that while there's an increase, it's not as bad as it was pre-COVID. But again, as I've said before, we can't have accurate statistics. We can't say that it's not as bad as pre-COVID unless we can see the statistics pre-COVID. So I've asked for a breakdown of that so that we can compare it a lot better. But as part of that, I've also, in relation to the intoxication while driving piece, I've also asked for a very specific breakdown there. I've asked for them to give me a breakdown of which are drug-related driving offences and which are drink-related driving offences, because there is a concern amongst certain organisations that I work with that drug use, drug taking is on the rise and alcohol use is decreasing. And what we need is the statistics so that we can ensure that we can implement the correct programs to kind of prevent that, to educate people, to work with individuals to prevent this from worsening. Now, as a result of... Now guys, feel free to pop in with any questions that you have. I can read the stats out to you for the Kildare area. So the Kildare area is Newbridge, Kildare Town, all the way down to Athy and Monastrevin. And I can read the stats out if you want, but most people will be bored to tears with that. So, but as a result of the police report, I also raised a number of issues, including antisocial behaviour that's been ongoing throughout the town, the need for more monitoring of drug-related crimes, be that drug dealing, be that drug use, or anywhere in between. Because while I absolutely believe in a holistic approach, and I believe in supporting people to exit addiction, I also believe that there is a duty of care. There is a duty of care to ensure that criminal behaviour that is taking place as well is reduced in as far as possible. Now, I was pleased to hear the Chief Super agree. And I mean, to be fair, I don't think he couldn't agree. I don't think anybody would think that we don't need more Garda resources. But not just that, he went on to then state that recently a business case has been put forward for two drugs units in the county, one in Kildare North, one in Kildare South. So one in Kildare North, one in Kildare South, where previously there had only been one, essentially dealing with the whole county. And listen, I know I've heard other local reps calling for location-specific drug units, like Newbridge needs a drug unit, Kildare Town needs a drug unit, Naas needs a drug unit, all of this kind of stuff. But I'm inclined to disagree with them. I've worked in community development and youth work for a long time. I've worked with individuals who are in active addiction. I've worked with communities who are experiencing deprivation caused by increased drug use within a community. And drug units, by their very nature, need to not be location specific. They need to have the ability to move to any area where it's necessary for them to move to within their jurisdiction, without being known to individuals. I think any one of us know the majority of the guards that are in Newbridge Garda Station. Now, if they were trying to do a covert op, where they were trying to raid somebody's house, where they were trying to stop somebody who had access to drugs or who they thought might be dealing, even in plain clothes, everybody will recognise them. So I think having a regional-based drugs unit is more likely to get the kind of results that people were looking for. So I have a question there from Molly. Do we have a local drugs task force? Do we have to depend on the Dublin Wicklow transport? So I think what you're referring to there, Molly, is the SWRDATF, so the South West Regional Drugs and Alcohol Task Force, which I actually sit on. Now, the South West Regional Drugs and Alcohol Task Force has a county remit, and they focus on education, prevention, a multitude of different things. So like I said, the DRIVE program that was done, the drug-related intimidation, violence engagement program is from the Drugs Task Force. The No Alcohol Substance on Board campaign is from the Drugs Task Force. Another recent campaign that they've been doing is in relation to coke-ethanol, which is the substance that can form in the body if somebody is drinking alcohol and taking cocaine at the same time. So we're doing our best to try to push as many programs out there throughout the county. We also fund or support the funding of day programs for people who are coming out of addiction. We work with organisations like Cúnmhuire, like the Dara Project, like Oris here, like Hope Cottage in Johnstown, which deals with family support for families whose family members are experiencing addiction or in active addiction. So the South Western Regional Drugs and Alcohol Task Force is doing its job. Now, in saying that, there are also local organisations that are trying to come together to develop a localised approach, and I think, I think that's something that everybody wants. I think many of us know that the horrendous things that can result in somebody being in active addiction, and how difficult it can be for that individual to then get out of active addiction. But absolutely, Molly, give me a shout anytime. I'd love to sit down and try to develop some sort of holistic approach for the town as well. Nicole, am I answering questions unrelated to drugs? Sure, absolutely. Feel free to fire anything in there. If I have the answer, I'll answer it. If I don't, I'll drop you a message. I can use the comment that you've just put there to drop you a message. So, now, just to go back to the drugs unit and to speak about how, yes, it's a positive thing that we'll have something that will be drug-related crime specific in the area. There are possible downsides to it. Now, the Chief Superintendent did say that Newbridge wouldn't be any worse off as a result of wouldn't be any worse off as a result of the drugs unit. However, the recruitment has to come from an internal pool. So they will be recruiting from stations like Kildare, Newbridge, Athy, Clane, Maynooth, all of these for the two individual drug units. Some officers may come from Kildare North to Kildare South, some may go from Kildare South to Kildare North. Now, the Chief Superintendent assured us that we would not be worse off, which is encouraging to hear. He also highlighted the fact that when Gardaí within this area are seeking transfers out of it, that he is not approving the transfers. He's essentially stating transfer approval subject to a replacement. So he's not allowing Gardaí to leave the district until they have a suitable replacement. He did also highlight that there are further people coming, that hopefully there will be further people coming out of Garda Training College. But again, myself and other local representatives highlighted the fact that while it's well and good to have additional Gardaí on the ground, we also need experienced additional Gardaí on the ground. We can't just have new recruits popping out of Templemore and basically staffing the whole Garda station without the support of more experienced Gardaí, and I think that's massively important. Now, again, as well as the case for an additional drugs unit in the area, which would include an additional sergeant in the area, again, all very positive things. The Chief Superintendent Scanlon did inform us that recently the HR team within An Garda Síochána, and very specifically for this district, are pulling together the numbers, pulling together the stats, and pulling together a further business case for additional Gardaí numbers for this area. Again, I know this is something that is on that people are extremely concerned about, and it is something that I've continued to work on. Sorry, I haven't been given many updates to people on the Joint Policing Committee, but again, as I've said, anytime you want any information on any of the work that I do, you just give me a shout. The Super also went on to highlight the fact that active travel measures that have been taking place around the county and roadworks that have been taken around the county, while they are a nuisance. Now, I don't drive, so roadworks halfway up the town are not necessarily going to massively impact on me, except for when I'm on a bus. But what he has said is that the increased roadworks, the increased active travel measures have resulted in what he could see as a reduction in road traffic related incidents, and very specifically in the Kildare Newbridge district alone. So you're talking about from Kildare, Kildare Town, Newbridge, Athy, Monastravan, and kind of anywhere in between or nowhere in between there has been a significant reduction. There's been a 49% reduction in traffic related illnesses in this district alone. Just popping on the comments here. So Nicole, Defence Forces have on their website that the Hollow Road is closed from 10 till 2 on fire ranges in use due to school runs and work. But the signs are saying 9 to 4. Sorry, have on their website due to school runs and work. but the signs are saying 9 to 4. Is there anything we can do when we are refused to use the road between 9 to 10, but website says different? To be honest, Nicole, it's likely that the website is more than likely out of date, unfortunately. I will send an email over to the Defence Force to see what the correct procedure is and where they are. But to my knowledge, even though the Hollow Road is closed, there are other routes around and there are diversion routes in place. Unfortunately, there's always a bit of a mix-up between what the council can do and what the council can't do in relation to Defence Force land. But listen, I'll get onto them, I'll find out, and I'll see what information I can get for you and drop it to you in a message. Back to Joint Policing Committee. Another thing that I raised, because it's something that's been raised with me by multiple people, is the proliferation of electric scooters. And the issues that they're causing in relation to possibly sometimes knocking people down. I think we all saw in the papers that there was an incident in where is it? Yes. There was an incident in Naas where somebody on an electric scooter going down a path hit into 2 people. So I did query that, and I was informed basically that because the legislation is still in progress in relation to electric scooters, that it's a bit of a grey area at the moment, and it's making it difficult to police. So I would suggest emailing your TDs, emailing all of these to see where we are with that legislation. I'll email them myself, but again, people power is massively important. So, Monica. Hi Monica, long time no see. Hi Chris, the JPC meeting last April, Stephen of the South West Regional Drugs and Alcohol Task Force gave a presentation during which he mentioned that there was a proposal to introduce a safer club accreditation system for the GAA and other sports clubs. Do you know if there has been any progress on this? So that is a very specific question, Monica, and a question I hope I have the answer to. So there is a safer clubs accreditation process going through. However, the GAA also have their own program at the minute, which is a Safer Communities program, which is very, very specific to the GAA and kind of an accreditation and a program through the GAA that's being done. Now, as chair of the Alcohol Oversight Committee and as chair of the Drug Treatment and Rehabilitation Committee on the South Western Regional Drugs and Alcohol Task Force, I have been pushing for us to engage, not so much to engage more with the GAA, but to reach out to the GAA to offer our expertise and to offer the supports that we can provide for them. And we're hoping to be able to sit down with the GAA and explore that in greater detail, in how we could possibly work with them to slot into their safer clubs program, and perhaps the safer club accreditation system and the safer communities, which is done by the GAA, can amalgamate and form an accreditation system. Because again, there has been an increase of both drug use and alcohol use among young people within sporting communities, which is concerning. Sporting communities at one point would have been seen as healthy communities. They would have been seen as communities where people engage in an active and healthy lifestyle, so they wouldn't necessarily engage with drug use, and if they did engage with alcohol, it was generally not in the way it has been now. But studies have recently shown that there has been an increase in drug use, very specifically nasal ingestion of cocaine, so snorting coke, and very specific binge drinking more than anything else. So instead of going out and having one or two, or having one at a weekend, it's been resulting in them going out to get drunk, or as the kids would call it, to get shit-faced. So we are hoping to see a further development on that. It has developed since 2022, but unfortunately when it comes to these programs, they are very slow to get to the point where they're fully developed. Dean. There's a brilliant course just finished up in the Riverbank Community Addiction Studies, which is a brilliant at educating and informing people of local Kildare services run by the Regional Drugs and Alcohol Task Force. Thank you, Aideen. I also, like I said before, I happen to be on the Southwestern Regional Drugs and Alcohol Task Force, and I'm very aware of the community addiction studies because I done the community addiction studies certificate. I'm not going to say how many years ago because that will make me feel rather old, but I done it, and it is an exceptional service in educating, not just around addiction itself, but also the services that are provided in the local area. If you were on the course yourself, you've more than likely dealt with the Drug Prevention Education Alcohol Coordinator from the Southwestern Regional Drugs and Alcohol Task Force, Stephen Joyce, absolutely amazing guy and always willing to help, support and to try to develop new and improved ways of engaging with people. Right, so I've answered a load of questions. No problem, Nicole, and that's great. Thanks for the update, Christian. No problem, Monica. You are missed on the JPC. Just let me point that out. But I think there's a number of other issues in relation to the quarterly JPC meeting. So when we were presented with the overview of the sale of alcohol bill, now some people are seeing this as a positive, some people are seeing this as a negative. I'm seeing it as an opportunity to improve our alcohol licensing laws. So one of the things a number of the things I raised when it was presented to us was that this is the bill where they're talking about extending opening hours till 6 a.m. in nightclubs and 2:30 in late bars or whatever. So the issue that I very, very specifically raised is that we cannot, they're talking about this law because it's going to help and support places like Dublin, perhaps Cork, perhaps Limerick, Waterford. But unfortunately what that seems to be doing is creating a system whereby all counties are going to have to deal with it, even though they're looking to very specifically increase cultural engagement in our bigger cities. Now, one of the things that I raised was that we cannot extend licensing hours, we cannot extend opening hours until the communities in which they are given the proper opportunity to engage, but not just that, until funding, resources and Garda numbers are increased. Because as I'm sure anybody is aware, and as the stats from earlier showed, as the nighttime economy has started to reopen, we have seen an increase in alcohol-related offences, drug-related offences, and crimes against the person. So we need to ensure that communities have the correct resources to deal with these things. We've all gone out in nightclubs, we've all gone out in late bars, so we see the arguments, the fights and the idiocy that takes place after the late bars shut up. And while bouncers and stuff like that have their role is once that person is outside of the premises, once that person is away from the premises, that's their role completed. So that's when Gardaí need to step in if it's necessary, and they can't step in if there's not enough of them. And I think again that's massively important. Another thing I raised, so when it was being presented to us, they spoke about how nobody was going to be forced to do this. Nobody could be forced to do this. This was being presented. Now, one of the things that I raised, as somebody who works in a bar, as somebody who works in a licensed premises, is that when they say stuff like that, they're speaking to employers, they're speaking to pub owners, they're speaking to licensees. They're not speaking to the staff that work there, because I know full well, now maybe not in my position, but I know full well that there are other people, there are other premises out there that will basically turn around to a staff member, hand them their roster, say, those are the hours you're working. they will not care if those hours are till 6 a.m. in the morning, and they will not give that staff a choice. They will say, they will give them a choice, but that choice will simply be, you work it, or we'll get somebody else to work it. And as it stands, it's difficult enough to get people to work in the alcohol industry, in the pub industry. So, like this, the sale of alcohol licensing law could actually be counterproductive as opposed to productive. A couple of other issues I raised in relation to the sale of alcohol bill was there has been no strengthening or legislation in and around drink deliveries. So we all know throughout the pandemic and still recently, drink delivery companies not only were they not delivering to a house, oftentimes delivering to a laneway, an alleyway, a car park, but oftentimes one individual in that group was of the age where they should be consuming alcohol and the rest weren't. So there needs to be a serious strengthening of legislation around drink deliveries to give the Gardaí the power to go into a place and go, right, now you're delivering drinks, we know your delivery driver has essentially been down the park delivering a bag of cans to a group of young lads. This is not acceptable, and this is the legislation that protects us, this is the legislation that covers us, and this is the legislation that prevents that. That's not something they've included in this legislation. Now, they did say that they're looking at including it further legislation, but it just beggars belief that it wasn't even included in this in the first place. Another issue that I raised was in other countries, New Zealand, Australia, very specifically, there is very specific, either government sponsored, government provided, or government promoted training for staff in bars. So for bartenders, for security, for floor staff, for glass collectors, for even for right the way down to somebody who's doing bar back for the bar, around spotting the signs of over intoxication, whether that be by their own hand, by the hand of somebody else, and whether that be intoxication through spiking, which, to be very clear, is when somebody puts a substance you're not aware of in your drink. The most common form being additional alcohol. So while you may not realise it, you going up to the bar, your friend asks you for a single vodka and 7-Up. You go up, you get a double vodka and 7-Up, and you're like, shh, don't tell anybody. That is spiking, whether you realise it or not, because they're not aware that there's more alcohol in that drink than there should be. So what that means is that, the reason why I raised it is because as we consider opening up later and later, or for a longer time and longer hours, there is this idea that people will begin to stagger and leave as they get to that level of drunk. But as somebody who works in a bar, that's not always the case, and it's not often the case. More often than not, when a person gets to the point of over intoxication, they have to be asked to leave. And if a bartender is unaware, like, listen, there's a common sense element of this. We should be aware of the level of over intoxication. But if we also had the legislative backing to be like, no, you've had enough, out you go. If we had the legislative training to go, no, you've had enough, out you go, that would prevent bar owners, bar managers, and other people who run bars or individual bars from turning around and go, why have you stopped serving him? Why are you not serving him? Because I've seen it, now not necessarily in any of the bars I've worked in currently, but I've seen it in other bars that I've worked in where they've said, yeah, I'm not giving you permission to stop serving people. And that's something that unfortunately might be prevalent across the country too. So staff need the support and the backing to prevent that from happening to them. Late license, no, grand. Protection from staff. Sorry, I have everything written down here in front of me just to make sure I don't forget anything. So again, when it came to speaking about the Garda numbers, speaking about the increase, and speaking about concerns that we might have, Chief Superintendent Scanlon did raise one very important point, and that's that if people are ringing the guards, and I know a lot of us feel like it's pointless, I get it, But he did raise the point that oftentimes what's happening is people are ringing their local station. Their local station has 3 guards on. 1 guard has to stay in the cell and stay in the station because there's somebody in the cell. 2 guards go out in the car. That car goes up to, let's use Newbridge as an example. That car goes up to the top of the town. There's a crash or an argument in a house or whatever. And then down the bottom of the town, something happens. There is no Garda car to go out. And because you've rang the local station, you're getting that local response. So what Chief Superintendent Scanlon did raise is that any time somebody is ringing the Gardaí and it requires a policing response, so that is antisocial behaviour, drug-related crime, break-ins, anything like that. Anything that requires a policing solution needs to go through 112 or 999, because that goes to a central location. They put you through to a Garda station, and that Garda station sends out the nearest car. So that could mean you get a car from Kildare Town, but do we care about getting a car from Kildare Town if we get a response? I don't think so. So just to be mindful of that when there are issues around illegal behaviour, that you're ringing the Gardaí. I still have 5 people on, which is something. I didn't think I'd keep any of you this long. But has anybody any other questions? Like, what I'm going to do as well is, in the comments of this video, I'm going to pop in individual pictures of the policing report so that you can all read the stats and information for yourself. And if you have any further questions or queries, you can give me a shout on it. But I suppose until then, I'm seeing no more questions or queries come in, which is absolutely fine. So I am going to say goodbye to you. Have a good day, and I hope to do more live streams like this for a multitude of different reasons. That could be from updates from the MD, updates from the full council, updates on projects and things that are coming up. So whatever you would like to see, let me know, and I'll try to do at least one of these live videos where I give you an update every week. I said try.